both the general and traveling public. This category allows retail, services, automotive, wholesale, office, and other general-related uses of an intense character, as well as mixed-use developments. This district should be located away from low and medium-density residential developments and may be used as a buffer between retail and industrial uses. As evidenced by the multiple waivers, staff finds the site to be too small to accommodate the intensity of the proposed uses and recommends denial of all applications. Please note that additional letters of protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Stephanie Allen, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. This property is located downtown. It's located at the corner of Bonanza and First Street. The site is here in yellow. There's two parcels. It's a fairly small site, as staff has mentioned. It's about 1/4 of an acre, so it's a pretty small site. However, this entire area is planned for mixed use, so at some point it is slowly developing and changing. There is residential around it, and that was the reason that we held this item at the last Planning Commission meeting so that we could have a neighborhood meeting. I know there's a number of neighbors here, and we appreciate them participating in that meeting. We learned a lot, and I think we've hopefully got some compromises that we can offer tonight that will address some of their concerns. From a zoning perspective, this is the zoning in the immediate area. You can see there's a mix of a lot of things. Right now, one of the parcels is currently zoned for office professional, the pink, and then the other parcel is zoned R1 along with this small neighborhood back here. Across the street, you also have a mix of very intense commercial. You've got the C2 commercial across the street, some residential, and then you've got some of the blue, some more industrial type uses. The most recent development is across the street on First Street, actually. It's a warehouse building that's used by, I believe, Circa. This is a picture of that building. It's 38 feet in height, and it's immediately across the street, as I mentioned, on First Street. Also, just on the corner of Casino Center and Bonanza, which is just across the street, this corner right here, you have the state building, public safety building. This is 87 feet in height. So in this little tiny area, you have a mix of a lot of things with some height, and then you've got obviously the existing residential. What we were hoping to accomplish at our neighborhood meeting was to understand how we can propose our mixed-use development in a way that is not harmful to the residential in the area, but also appropriate in what's planned for mixed use downtown and as this area changes. This is in the Cashman district, and so there's a lot of plans. The city has a lot of plans for this area, and we believe what we're proposing is a small improvement. The lot is empty. There's issues on the property right now. In fact, the building that was on the corner that my client was operating out of unfortunately burned down. So right now it's an eyesore. There's a lot to be improved. The fences around the property are dilapidated, and so we think by coming in with a new development that this could actually improve and help the area. With respect to the applications, this is the site plan that's before you. We initially asked for C2, and the reason was so that we could allow the mix of uses on the property. What we heard from the residents is they are very concerned with C2, and the reason is they don't want a 7-Eleven or some of those more intense uses, which is understandable. As I mentioned, there's a neighborhood behind this corner at Bonanza and First Street. What we're proposing and what was previously operated there was for True Family Services. They are a disability and mental health service provider. They were operating on this property since 2010, so they're established in the neighborhood. They are not new to the neighborhood. This is a reestablishment of their services that they have provided in this area. So they would operate on the bottom floor with a variety of those services, including office and some ancillary commercial. The commercial they were looking at is a barber shop and potentially a coffee shop. There's no interest in having a 7-Eleven, no interest in having alcohol or gaming or any of those more intense uses that would come with C2. So what we would propose today is to offer to reduce our request to C1. we can accomplish what we want to do in C1, and that will further protect the residents. Any intense uses in a C1 district will require a special use permit. So if for some reason, which is not the plan, but if for some reason this particular property owner were to go away 10 years from now and there's C1 zoning on the property, most of those more intense uses would require a special use permit. So they would get notice, there would be a public hearing, and there would be a discussion about those types of uses. The uses that we want to do and that we plan to do on this property is office, as I mentioned, those ancillary commercial uses like a barber shop and a coffee shop, and then on the top 2 floors residential. So the C1 and the C2 allow those mix of uses. We're happy to do it in C1, so we'll reduce that request to C1. This is the layout. As I mentioned, it is a small quarter-acre site, so the actual footprint is 4,800 square feet, this proposed bottom floor. It is not a large building, and when I show you the elevations, it looks larger than it is, but it is 4,800 square foot on the bottom floor, and then the 2 floors above it are smaller than that. They're about 3,800 square foot. The residential that we're proposing is 18 units. So yes, it's small and there's not a lot of units. They are proposed to house veterans. So the goal would be the clientele that they have with True Family Services on that main floor. They have a ton of clients that are in need of housing, and they have from the government, assistance from the government as veterans, and these 18 units could potentially be apartments for some of them. And we have access coming off of First Street, which is probably less preferable to residents. The goal is to keep the traffic on Bonanza, to keep it out of the neighborhood. So that's the reason the access point is on Bonanza. You can see here, this is the entry to the underground garage. So there's 12 parking spaces that are underground, and then there's a few parking spaces right here in the parking lot. There's not a lot we can do with the design of the site, but that is the reason for the special use permit, because downtown is preferred to have those parking spaces off the street. From a landscaping perspective, we have asked to waive some of the landscaping, and we're happy to add some landscaping. Again, there's not a lot of space here, but we did have someone lay out potentially doing some additional trees and shrubs right here at the corner of Bonanza and First Street. So I would offer that tonight. I think they can lay out about 5 additional trees and 5 shrubs in this area. But currently the landscaping that is shown is on the east side. There will be a landscape area here, and then there's actually an easement before you get to this black line where there's the block wall. On the north, there's a small landscape area and then a block wall as well. And as I mentioned, those 2 block walls should help with the residential. I hadn't heard that they would like a higher wall, but if they do want a higher wall and we do that tonight, we're happy to do an increased wall height to better protect them along the north and along this east property line. With respect to the elevations, this is what the building looks like, and as I mentioned, it looks larger in scale than it is. It's only on its footprint 4,800 square feet. But this is the view that you would have from Bonanza, with the offices and ancillary commercial on the bottom floor, and then the garage entrance located right here. We do currently have balconies facing the north, and we are happy to get rid of those. We did hear that residents did not want balconies facing their homes, and we understand it. There's no need to have them. We're happy to agree to remove those balconies. So in addition to reducing it to C1, we will remove the balconies that are facing the north. That is generally the presentation. From just an overall whether this is appropriate. We do not have a GPA, a general plan amendment, because it's a master plan for mixed use residential and commercial. So from the plan, the master plan, contemplates a mix of uses, and you can see there already is a mix of uses in this area. From an intensity standpoint, we're on Bonanza. So if there's a place for something like this, I think Bonanza is a good spot for it. Yes, we are adjacent to residential to the north. But we're trying to do what we can to, as I mentioned, have no access on First Street so that we don't have traffic going into the residential. We're limiting it to Bonanza, and then from an overall buffering standpoint, trying to do maybe a higher wall, some additional landscaping, and no balconies. So with that said, I know there's some residents here in support, there's some residents here in opposition, but we would very much appreciate your support tonight and happy to answer questions.
Thank you. This opens us a public hearing. Anyone want to be heard, please come forward, state your name and address.
I'll go real quick and then you come.
And, Mr. Chairman? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Leo Ash. I live at 5137 West Iowa Way. I have a property with 80,000 radius of this property. I did attend the meeting, the neighborhood meeting, and I appreciate that the applicant did that. I think it was a very productive meeting, and I want to say that I'm in favor of this project. This is a mixed-use development proposed, and we really need that in the downtown area. We also need it along Bonanza. That area is underserved. I think that this would be a great use for that property. If it isn't approved, the lots will stay vacant, for an unknown amount of time. Nobody's going to build a single-family residence on the corner of First and Bonanza. So I just want to say quickly that I'm in favor of the project, and I've been in the neighborhood for 12 years now.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Can we get your name and address for the record?
Stephen J. Bank. I'm here on behalf of my owner, Judith Rumford, who's too old and sick to attend. 720 North First Street. I looked up the code, and I learned that C1 uses this exact term, local business. Local needs to be defined and enforced in this case. The owner made promises. This is a good concession, but we're going to make sure that if this project is approved in the end, that local means just what it says, okay? That's the first item. And the second item I wanted to bring to your attention was that the orientation of the property interferes very seriously with the neighbors immediately behind them view of downtown. Instead of looking at the circa with those beautiful lights, they have an enormous gray wall. Okay, so as far as that's concerned, the orientation could very easily rotate to where that enormous gray wall is on the east side and the building faces directly west rather than directly south. That would ease the visual congestion that the building will create in that orientation, and that'll give the property a little breathing room where they can put perhaps above ground parking. So those are the two I wanted to bring forward, and as far as what they propose for the C1, I will abstain.
Thank you.